It's the energy in trying to stop people from calling out racism and no energy on ERCOT. That's a problem for me. No pun intended. Welcome to this week's episode of Dissent and Not Disrespect. It's me, Quentin R. Giles, where I am tackling the biggest headlines and giving my thoughts, my opinions, all while not being disrespectful. And when I say it took everything in me to not disrespect the Texas Senate Republicans for passing a bill that would eliminate the requirement for public schools to teach that the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacy was morally wrong. Hold on, wait. And this bill would also block schools from teaching Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. It would also ban Susan B. Anthony's writings on the women's suffrage movement. And it would also ban Native American history. You mean the same Native Americans whose land we're on today? The same Native Americans who were labeled the savages when it was really the colonizers who were the savages? It's very ghetto here. I would not recommend. This ongoing push to somehow debunk that racism does not exist in America or that systemic racism is not a thing is really giving me y'all want to go back to slavery days. And one thing Black, brown, and indigenous folks ain't doing, we ain't going back. Now, based on the events of January 6th, I am actually going to choose my words correctly because we're not trying to be on the FBI watch list, okay? We got things to do, okay? Because it's definitely about to be head day in a minute. But this is absolutely atrocious and horrendous. We know that systemic racism exists. We see it every day. Black folks experience it every day. And for the Texas Senate to take up all of their energy and all of their power to pass this bill and yet have done nothing about ERCOT when we almost froze to death, some folks did, and then almost burned to death not too long ago when the system was having some shaky issues. And yet and still we want to attack something that we know actually exists. So Texas Senate Republicans, how about instead of trying to propagate a big lie or try to tear down actual history and not give people the alternative facts, the revisionist history, flat out lies, we actually teach people what actually happened. And we actually try to come together, especially since that's the term that everyone decides to use from the opposition party when it comes to systemic racism and the talks around it, and actually move forward. But I know exactly what it is. You see that Black people are starting to rise. You see that brown people are starting to rise. You see that the indigenous are starting to rise, and now your white fragility, white power feels threatened. When all we're asking for is to be treated as equals and to be given equity in the situation. When one group has been in power for so long and then another group asks for equality, it feels like an attack. And that is exactly how Republicans at large, and specifically the Texas Republicans, are acting right now. Needless to say, I dissent.